Hello, friends. It's me, Kurt Schmidt, with Ryan Fraseri, and together we make the podcast Without Fear. What's up, Ryan?
Hey Kurt, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I did not practice that at all. I just like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's whatever, man. It's the more we do it, then something will stick. It'll become second nature, and then you'll want
I
to change it, but you won't be able to because you've said it so much that it'll be stuck in your brain.
that's how I answer the phone every time. I can't think of what it is now, but every single time I answer the phone, I say the same like phrase.
Ahoy!
Yeah, all the time, always. Um, yeah, but I've been wanting to do that. That was me trying to imitate like my favorite YouTuber, one of my favorite YouTubers. I'm not going to tell you.
Is it HTC?
No, I don't know who HTC is.
Oh, okay, all right. That's the abbreviation for the channel name, but he starts all of his out with like "Hello, friends."
Oh, oh, no, it's not a he
Oh, okay, all
either.
right.
All right. If you know who it is, leave it in the comments and I will like it. All right. What do we have on the docket today, man? We got I think a packed episode, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get out of here under an hour.
Oh God, no.
Probably not
No.
even under 2 hours. I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll be pushing that, I think. Yeah. So what before we get into anything, what's new and exciting with you? Anything? You got I guess we'll cover Daredevil related stuff soon enough. There's there's other than what we're doing, there's not much Daredevil related stuff you could be doing, right? You didn't go back and rewatch the show or nothing, did you?
No, I need to. I mean, I should. It should
Yeah,
be an annual thing for me, but I don't have Disney Plus right now, so
yeah.
I don't have ready
Oh,
access to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what other than Daredevil, you reading anything?
Not comics wise, actually. No. I've been reading some books, books that I've read like 100 times. But my son is finally started reading this series because we just recently rewatched all of the movies in the film series. That's Harry Potter. So I've actually been reading those. Not he actually he liked the movie so much, and he had a bunch of gift cards stashed for Barnes and Noble that he went and he bought like all seven of the books, and he's been reading those. So every time he finishes a book, I go back and read it too, so I can have like my memory refreshed, so we can talk about it.
Nice.
So I'm on the third Harry Potter book right now, so I'm rereading those. But yeah, Daredevil is the only comics I'm reading right now, and it's they are movie length each issue, so it takes like a week to get through like 4 issues, 2 weeks even to get through like 4 issues of it.
Yeah,
So I don't really have a whole lot of time to be reading other comics while I'm reading 60s Daredevil.
yeah. It's yeah, I hear you. You know, for some reason, I don't know what. Maybe it's growing on me a little bit more, but I feel like I'm getting through them a little bit more quick. I'm enjoying them a little bit more than I was at the beginning. Um, and they're going by a little bit quicker for me. But I think I've varied it a little bit. And I don't think you have. Like the last time I read that Spider-Man issue, I read that Spider-Man 16. You didn't read that Spider-Man 16, right?
No, I didn't. I kind of thumbed through it and I was like, Kurt will tell me what happens. It's fine.
You gotta get that. That's what you need. That's why like you gotta get that little break in because that's probably helping me. And then today's I read that FF 39 and 40. Um, and that was a nice little break from the usual cast of characters because then after reading those and then jumping back into the three-way romance and stuff. Well, we'll get to that stuff. Um, yeah. How about anything on TV? Anything you watched lately? Anything good?
Dude,
Movies?
I don't know. Like, I'm looking back at this past week and a half, and I'm like, what have I done with it? I haven't done anything. Um, but my wife was out of town over the last weekend, so I took like Monday off work, the third, and just spent some time with my sons. While she was out of town, we didn't really do a whole lot. We just kind of had like a man weekend. And so my wife left town on Saturday, and then she came back like early in the morning on the 4th. So we had like the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, pretty much all to ourselves. So we rewatched the extended Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. So we watched
Yeah.
the extended Return of the King or Lord of the Rings trilogy. So that was like 16 hours of of our time. So we did that. We've been playing some games. I have a Lord of the Rings board game called Journeys in Middle Earth. So my older son's been getting into that. And then I bought the 2 pack, the bundle of Ty West's like horror movies that he's doing. So it was X and Pearl, um, ahead of the Maxine movie that's supposed to be coming out, I think, next year. Um, so I
I
watched
have,
those, really liked those. Hadn't seen those before, so I was able to check those out. Really liked those.
yeah, I have no idea what you just said to me.
Oh,
All
really?
that's I'd never heard any of that stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was
I've heard of
so
the Fellowship of the Ring, but after that, no
Lord of the Rings.
idea.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, it was like a horror movie that came out. It was kind of like a slasher sort of movie. It's like a period piece, takes place like in the 70s. And it's like an adult film crew is staying on like a rural, like in a farm. But the people that own the farm are crazy. And, it's murders and stuff. It's just, typical slasher kind of fare.
What are
And
those called?
then it's the first one is called X, and then the second one is called Pearl. It's like a prequel called Pearl, and then there's a
Okay.
new one coming out called Maxine. So it's the woman who owns the farm with her husband. That's Pearl, and so like the Pearl movie tells her origin, and apparently yeah, they were good. Like I liked them. I kind of like that. It's like the obviously it's like a modern movie, so like the special effects are really good, but it's shot to be kind of like an homage to like 70s kind of slasher movies. Yeah, I dug it. I dug them both. So I'm looking forward to the third one that comes out.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, I wrote them down. I'll have to check them out. Um, I think since we last talked, I've watched. We went to the movies. We saw The Flash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I liked it. I thought it was really good. I don't know what you've heard. I think there's mixed reviews on it, right?
I from my hardcore DC fan friends, they're like, "Oh, this movie's great. You got to go see it. It's wonderful."
Well,
And then my friends that are like that hate DC movies are like, "Yeah, this was terrible. This was one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. It's just nonsensical drivel." And I'm like, "All right,
oh,
so I'll probably like it because I love DC comics, and
yeah,
I love most of the DC. Like, I still haven't watched the Black Adam or Shazam,
yeah.
but I've generally actually liked most of the DCEU movies.
Oh,
Um, so I don't know. I'll probably like this, and I like the Keaton Batmans. I mean, I like all the Batmans really, except the Michael Schumacher Batmans, and I like all the old Supermans, and yeah, I don't
yeah.
know.
I I haven't watched it. I watched the last Batman movie with what's his name from Twilight with Edward in it. Um, and I like that. I like that one a lot. I saw that one. I saw it like 3 times in the theater actually.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, so I really like that one. Other than the emo Bruce Wayne, I could have done without that. Otherwise, that was a cool movie. Um, but then other than that, dude, I think the last one I saw was Batman v Superman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because I after that I'm like this franchise or this stuff sucks. I remember being so excited for it, and I probably have myself to blame because I don't watch many previews at all.
Hmm.
Um, maybe when it first comes out, that's like the only time I'll really watch it, because generally I'm gonna go see if I'm gonna see it. I don't need anything to get me excited for Batman versus Superman. Um,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go see it. And I thought I was so excited that I brought all the kids to go see it, and then the kids were like looking at me like, "Can we go? Like this is bad." I'm like, "What the?" I'm gonna try to keep this clean. Like what the hell is wrong with these people? How do you put Superman and Batman on screen and the kids hate it? Like how do kids hate it? Like that's horrible. Like why?
Yeah.
Who are you marketing to, man? I don't care. I don't care what like 40 or 50-year-old man's like, yeah, that's good and gritty. Like, I don't know. There's there was one 40-year-old man with 3 kids, and the 40-year-old man didn't like it and the 3 kids didn't like it. So
Wow.
they didn't get any money from us for years. Um, after that
Wow.
stupid movie. I don't know, but you liked it, I guess. You
I
just said you
did,
liked them
yeah.
all. Oh
I uh
God.
I didn't see Man of Steel in theaters because like I like Superman, but I'm not a huge Superman guy. And it came out in a year where like I really didn't have the time or the money to see movies. I think the year what Man of Steel came out in like 2013 or 2014, something like that. And I think I only saw maybe 3 movies in the theater combined over both of those years. Like I saw Winter Soldier and Days of Future Past, and I think The Wolverine. I think those are the only 3 movies I saw in the theater over the like those 2 years. So I'm not the biggest Superman guy anyway, so I wasn't really looking forward to the Man of Steel all that much. And a buddy of mine is like, "Oh, dude, you got to watch this movie." So he loaned me his copy, and I tried to watch it. Like
Yeah.
he loaned it to me. I took it home, tried to watch it that night, fell asleep at a specific spot, and then the next night I was like, all right, I'll start it over and it's fine. Fell asleep at the exact same spot. Third night, fell asleep at the exact same spot. Like fourth night, I put it on at that spot, and I was like, haha, I'll trick myself, and I'll be able to stay up for another hour and I'll finish it. And then I immediately fell asleep, and I was like, all right, you know what?
Nice.
Like this, I'm not gonna ever finish this movie. This movie is so boring and so dull. I can't even like. I start it and I immediately fall asleep. So I've never even finished Man of Steel. So I had like just the lowest expectations for Batman vs Superman. I thought Ben Affleck was a terrible choice for Bruce
Oh,
Wayne and Batman. I actually thought Gal Gadot looked fine. I remember there was like a lot of controversy when she was cast because people were like, she's too skinny. Whatever. I thought she looked great. Um, yeah, so I was like, all right, this like Ben Affleck sucks. The trailers make this movie look terrible. It's going to be so bad, but I'll go see it anyway because it's 2016 now, and I have the time and the money to go to movies again. So I'm going to go to
yeah.
as many movies as I can, and I loved it. I
Yeah.
sat there and was just like completely enthralled from the opening sequence all the way to the very end, and I was like, oh man, like as a dark DC Comics fan, like I loved everything about this movie, and I expected to hate everything, and I loved all of it. And like I liked the Wonder Woman movie. I actually liked Aquaman. Thought that was a lot of fun. I thought the first Shazam movie was a lot of fun. I didn't see Suicide Squad or the Birds of Prey stuff because I thought both those looked bad, so I didn't see them. But I liked the Suicide Squad. I liked the Peacemaker series that James Gunn did. I actually liked
Yeah.
the Doom Patrol and the Titans series that they did as well. The Harley Quinn cartoon, I really like that. I don't know, but I'm kind of I've fallen behind on DC, and there's really no rush to catch back up since it's all ending and the new like Gunverse is going to start at some
Yeah.
point. So now I'm just like, I'll get to them maybe someday. I don't know.
Yeah. I uh I was kind of excited to hear that he was taking over and he wanted to take over with Superman. I really like, and of all I'm not a I'm not a DC fan like at all. Um but the one character I would like, and I like in the one character I like in the universe is Superman.
Oh,
So
okay.
to hear that, I was excited, but then I saw Guardians 3, and I'm like, oh, I never want to watch anything by him again. Guardians. Oh, I don't think, like, I don't even want to go see another Marvel movie. I don't want to see any more superhero movies after watching Guardians 3. That was complete trash.
Wow.
I hated Guardians 3. And I,
Dang.
like, yeah, I didn't like it. I it was entertaining. Like the action was entertaining and stuff. And leaving it, I remember leaving the theater and I was like, I was on the fence. Like it was entertaining, but I didn't like it. I didn't like stuff that happened. And then the further I get away from it, the more I just despise it. Yeah. You haven't seen it though yet, right?
Nah, I haven't seen any Marvel thing since the Guardians holiday special.
Oh, okay.
And then before that, it was like I'm kind of over the MCU, man. Like other than Marvel Plus, who will shout
Yeah.
out since you're wearing a rad Marvel Plus shirt. Other than Marvel Plus and like living vicariously through Brett's fandom, since he actually likes all the stuff that comes out,
Yeah.
I'm like done with the MCU. I gave up. I didn't like the Moon Knight series last year. I
Hmm.
gave up on Miss Marvel. I didn't watch She-Hulk except for the Daredevil episode. I did like Werewolf by Night, and I did like the Guardians holiday special. But I don't even think I liked any of the movies that came out last year. I'm trying to think. Like,
No,
Multiverse of Madness was okay. I
they're all
didn't love it. I
terrible.
didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I
It
didn't
was
care for Love and Thunder at all. Like,
oh
like
god,
none
that's
of it was good. I didn't even
no.
see Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. No plans to see that one. Like, no plans to see Ant Man. Uh, I guess eventually I'm gonna get Disney Plus back for X-Men 97 and like the Ahsoka series. So I'll probably end up watching at least Ant-Man and Guardians 3. But
I
like otherwise I don't really care, dude. Like I don't care about Secret Invasion. I don't care about Loki season 2. I don't care
yeah.
about the Marvels. Nothing, dude. Like, I don't care about any of it.
Maybe in Loki season 2 they'll actually tell a story about Loki. They're the main character of the show, right?
And
I
maybe have a twist and turn because he's the god of mischief and like things
mhm.
are supposed to it's supposed to be twisty and turny. Like it was the
Yeah.
most linear of all the series. It was so predictable and it was like here every
Mhm.
this is a Daredevil podcast.
So I'll bring it back for us. The thing you missed out on, man, with not watching She-Hulk, which I hated at the beginning, but then I ended up growing to love it. It was it was it was pretty good towards the end, I thought. I really liked how it ended. But I'd have to rewatch. I'm almost positive. Um, we got a Matador appearance in that show,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I
right?
think Man Bull too.
Yes, Manville. That's the other one I was
And
trying to think of.
in the Daredevil episode, they had Leapfrog, who makes
Oh,
appearances
okay.
in Daredevil as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was going to be Frogman. Um,
yeah.
and I was like, nah, this is a Daredevil episode. It's got to be Leapfrog. And so I'm not like, oh, I was right, but like that was cool that it was like the villainous Leapfrog, and not the
Yeah,
heroic Frogman. Yeah, I like that.
it's pretty cool. I remember the Matador sticks out to me. He's on one of my favorite covers. So, and he's might be like the worst villain ever.
Well, I don't
He's
know, man. We'll get to some interesting villains today.
yeah, we will. And I've got a yeah, we'll get to that. I got in order to get to that though, we got some other stuff to get through. Um, we got to get through. We have a top five. So right here, I'd edit in. I'm gonna say I'm gonna edit in, but I probably won't. It's like some kind of jingle. Top five, top five, top five. something like that.
Nice.
All right, so Daredevil, the beauty of Daredevil is also like the crutch of Daredevil, where there's not like a lot of variety, man. It's tough. It's not like it's not may I haven't asked, but maybe our sister podcast, or maybe this is the sister podcast to yours, to Talking Snicked, where you could have like an infinite amount of top fives that revolve around Wolverine or the X-Men, right? Um, like literally infinite with all the futures and pasts and everything.
Oh yeah.
Um, but with Daredevil, I don't know. There's not much. So I thought what would be fun is forget the theme of the show for once. For once. and and we'll focus on us and flesh out the personalities behind the podcast without fear, and try to bring our viewers more into the more into us, right?
Yeah.
So, or listeners, viewers slash listeners, even though as we record, I haven't put it up on a podcast streamer yet because I'm not technically sound at all. But I will try. So for our inaugural top five, we have top five writers. Um, I guess I'll. It was my idea. Why don't I start it off, huh?
Yeah, sounds good.
Man, I had a really difficult time with this, to the point to where like minutes before we're recording, I'm like, all right, who's my number five? And I'm looking at it now and I can't say. I'm gonna say it's Peter David. Uh, I'm gonna say Peter David is my number five. You might know him as the writer of X Factor or Supergirl or Fallen Angel or Aquaman
The Incredible
or
Hulk
I guess the Incredible Hulk, sure.
was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it was a big run, dude. It was a big run.
Yeah, it was. It was like 20 years or something. It was insane. It's yeah. So yeah, I I'm a big fan of his X Factor. Um, it's awesome. I love that run. That's that's great. But yeah, Peter David's got a good handle on characters, on the dialogue, on characterization. You know, he takes he's good with the non like the secondary non-star characters, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, that's my number five.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good pick. A big Peter David fan. So,
Yeah.
so my number five, I went with Tom Waltz. So this is a guy that I don't know what else he's written, other than being like the main architect of the like present day ongoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IDW series. The first time I'd ever heard of Tom Waltz was during that series, and like I said, I don't know what else he's written. I'm sure he's written other stuff, but it's just one of those things where it's relatively recent, and it might not even be like pinnacle Ninja Turtles for some people, but every new issue that I read, so he wrote like the first 100 issues as well as most of the mini series and micro series that came out during that 100 issue run. He stepped away. It's the ongoing series is currently being written by Sophie Campbell, but he's still kind of involved a little bit, and he's been working on the Last Ronin stuff. So he wrote the Last Ronin miniseries. He's writing the Last Ronin: The Lost Years right now. Um, but it's like groundbreaking Ninja Turtles stuff. Like it's pinnacle Ninja Turtles, peak Ninja Turtles, and it's one of those things where it's like every time I hear about like a new innovation, like before I started actually reading the series, it was like, oh, they changed this and they changed that, and like they did this a little bit differently, and they kind of put a tweak on this character's origin, and like they introduced this new character, and everything that I heard, I was like, that sounds like a bad choice. And then actually reading the, like, yeah, it's like, I'm like, that's, I don't like that, I don't like this at all, this sounds bad, like this is way outside the box, I don't like it. And then I read it, and the execution, the storytelling, the writing, the characterization, all of that stuff is so top notch that like I swear by the IDW Turtles series now. Like it is the best of any version of the Ninja Turtles we've had. And like that includes the original cartoon from the 80s, the original comics from the 80s, the live action movies from the 90s, even like the 2012 cartoon series, which is one of my favorite versions of Ninja Turtles ever. The like IDW series is so good, so well thought out. Like the pacing is excellent, the characterizations are all good, and all of these new innovations that they brought to the world of the Turtles has been just been fantastic. So like because of that, he had to crack my top five.
Hmm. Yeah, that's I've never heard of that guy before. That's interesting. Yeah, completely unaware of that. Um, Now I'll bring up number 4 for me, which changed literally minutes before we started recording. Uh, Frank Miller.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and man, it was tough because I love Miller, but I was gonna um, keep him off of this list because I think I love him more as the creator combo that he is, the writer artist. Uh, but man, the more I thought about this list, the more I couldn't get past his writing for others that I really like Daredevil. I think like half of his stuff, maybe with Daredevil, maybe not quite half, but pretty close. Probably 40% is written for others. I'd say, um, where maybe he's laying it out and others are finishing it, or or where he's just writing it for David. I don't know, Mazzucchelli. I don't know how. Sorry. Um, Man, I'm saying a lot. But Miller is, whether it's Daredevil or Sin City or other his other writings, I love it. Uh, the hard part I had with Miller with the actually the whole list for me, um, is where I came up with the idea of the list was actually I just got a hardcover by my number one writer here, and I was putting it away on my shelf, and I thought like, man, this guy has his own section. He's probably my favorite writer. Oh, I
Hmm.
wonder who else. And then I thought like, well, who else would I possibly who else would I possibly buy just for that name? And and then that's how I got down this list. But then Frank Miller comes up, and it's like, man, I'm not really interested in reading anything of Frank Miller these days. But does that mean he doesn't get a spot on my list?
Yeah.
I don't, it's tough. Um, but yeah, so Frank Miller, number 4, Daredevil, Sin City, and a handful of other things that can't come to mind, that don't come to mind right now.
Yeah. The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, that's what
Batman Year One. Well, you said you're not really a DC guy, so I guess that might not rate so high.
I hate Batman.
Oh no.
I I hate Batman, and I don't understand why anybody likes Batman.
Oh,
Batman, he's a rich, pompous asshole. Like he's just a rich guy that just buys everything. Where Joker, where does he get all these wonderful toys? He buys them. That's where he gets them from. He buys them from Sky Mall. What
it's
the
his
hell, man?
superpower, dude. His superpower is he's
Shit.
rich.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have that superpower too if mom and dad were billionaires that died and left me their fortune.
There you go.
He-
Superhero
he's
Kurt.
yeah. Batman. What a oh god, I hate Batman. Sorry, we're up way off topic.
No, it's all good. So number 4 for me is going to sound familiar. It is Peter David. Basically, just to piggyback off what you said, that the X Factor run was amazing, and of course, I on my other podcast, I devoted an entire month just to going back and looking at the initial run that he had on X Factor in the '90s. But I just love the way that he writes characters. You said like he's got this great voice for like secondary characters. He has a really interesting way of making any character that he writes compelling. He finds that compelling thread, and he's able to follow it up. And just the way he weaves in like pop culture, and I don't know, it's just the way that he writes. It's so entertaining to read. Every page, every panel is just so fun to read. Uh, Obviously, he's not the artist, but he always seems to have a really good rapport with whatever artist he's teamed up with. They always seem to have their finger on the pulse together, and they just put together like such fun comics. And I think that that's all driven by Peter David. I think he's a fan himself, and that really shows in all of his writings. And that bleeds over into like his Star Trek novels, which I've never read any of them, but like if you read any of the reviews, fans are like, these are great. So he's just a very talented writer. But comic book wise, like I love that X Factor run, especially the '90s one. Like obviously his entire X Factor run when he turns it into X Factor Investigations is amazing. But that first '90s run is just so charming. I don't know. I just love Peter David. So number 4 on my list.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great pick. um, yeah, you said perfect. My number 3 is surprised me, I guess, because I never would have thought until I was looking at things and thinking about what I've really enjoyed. And that is Brian K. Vaughan. Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this, and man, I had a hard time leaving him off because everything, everything he's written that I know of, I've loved. Uh, it probably started with me. It started with, I think the first thing I read of his was Runaways. Uh, then I read Why the Last Man. I read Why the Last Man in trade paperback form over a week. And the majority of that time was in Las Vegas because I don't gamble. I don't gamble, but I'm a nerd. So I brought all my paperbacks and I read them. I read them poolside and at the table at the buffet. I me here's here's a nerd challenge for all of you viewers out there. Beat this. I'm out to breakfast with Jeanette, my wife, my wonderful wife. Shout out to Jeanette. So we're sitting down for breakfast. I brought 2 trade paperbacks with me, and when we were done eating, I said, "All right, I'll see you later. I'm sticking around for lunch." so so I read my 2 paperbacks got me from the morning buffet to the lunch buffet. Yeah. Yeah, she went out and gambled. Um, but yeah, man, I loved Why the Last Man. Why I'll drag this podcast on way too long by going into it. But I love that. I love the I love man Saga. It took me a couple times to read Saga. That's one of the few things that I've read like the first trade I read like 2 or 3 times because I just kept on hearing how good it was. And it took me I think the third time I finally got hooked on it. And by the time my oldest, almost 17-year-old, was starting freshman year, I felt like she was always kind of sheltered, so I gave her the hardback of Saga, and I said, "Read this." I'm like, just read it. You'll like it. Man, she flew through that, I think, in like 2 days. And then I asked her some questions about it, like, oh, what'd you think of this? And then her eyes would get wide, like face all red. I'm like, that's all right. We don't have to talk about it. um, but then she asked for the second hardcover. I gave her that. And then she wanted more. I'm like, oh, they're on hiatus for 2 years. Like, yeah, you're SOL, kid.
Yeah.
Um, but dude, and one of like the greatest things, last thing I'm going to say about Brian K. Vaughan, because how much do you really need to say about him, right? One of the best things I've ever read, and I think I would give it to anybody as like a first thing to read, Pride of Baghdad. Have you ever read that? Have you ever heard of
Mm-mm.
that? Man,
No,
that's
no,
good.
no.
That's that's good.
Wow.
Um, it's amazing. I'm not going to describe it to anybody. Pick it up, Google it, look at it, look at the art. The art in this it's phenomenal. Um, yeah, it's really good. I think it was. I'm guessing by the form I got in the trade. I'm guessing that was probably maybe it was probably like an OGN or something um, when it was first released. But it's amazing. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah. So Brian K. Vaughan, number 3 for me. What do you got for number 3?
Nice.
Beat that, hot shot.
So my number three is kind of the same thinking that you used for Frank Miller, where it's like I've read a bunch of stuff that this guy's written, and everything that I've read that he's written, I've absolutely loved. Even like past his Marvel and DC stuff, I've loved it. But I haven't really read anything that he's put out in the last decade, probably longer than that. And that is Mark Miller. So Mark Miller, when I started reading stuff that he wrote, that was like eye-opening for me. This was like right at the time that I was starting to like dive headfirst into comics as an adult reader for the first time. And he, like I said, he just completely opened my eyes to the way comics can be, the kind of stories that could be told, like how cinematic and I hate to use the word epic, so I'm not going to, but like how gargantuan some of these storylines can be, like globe spanning and all this stuff. And I, I love Mark Miller. The weird thing is, like, he doesn't write for Marvel or DC anymore. He's got Miller World now, and I've not read anything that he's done since he stopped doing like mainstream stuff. It's weird because like I read Wanted, I read Kick Ass that he did before Miller World, but I've not read anything from Miller World at all, and I don't really care to. Like I like Mark Miller, but like I don't really care to read anything else from him. Uh, because it kind of bleeds in. Like one of the thing about all these best writers, all the writers on this best of list, I've read a lot of stuff that they've written, and you kind of see where a lot of their like a lot of they like redo a lot of stuff, right? Like they kind of have these ideas that they redo over and over again. Uh, but I still love Mark Miller. Like I loved the Ultimate X-Men that he did. I loved Civil War. I loved Superman Red Sun. There's not really a whole lot from Mark Miller from like 2000 to 2005 that he wrote that I don't just absolutely love. And I think just for that alone, he's on the list.
Yeah, man, he's not on my list here at all, but he should be like a um honorable mention or something on my list because yeah, I've really enjoyed a lot of his stuff too. The last thing I just picked up his most recent thing because of his YouTube channel, and he's pushed it a lot. I think it's called The Ambassadors. All right, so my number 2 is Brian Michael Bendis. Um, I kind of surprised myself with this one that he's not my number 1, but he's kind of inconsistent for me. I really, excuse me, I I fell in love and became aware of Bendis with Daredevil. Um, After Daredevil, I've read and enjoyed his Avengers stuff, his independent stuff, Jinx, Scarlet, Alias was great.
Mhm.
Um, I really enjoyed his X-Men run. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that. I love Gold Balls. I I loved Gold Balls when he did it, and I loved what Hickman did with Gold Balls. I thought that was great. I think Gold Balls is here to stay because of that. He's like
Oh yeah.
that's we've got like the new age Deadpool with that. Gold balls equals Deadpool. There's the catch right there. Totally, man. The originator of them just made him like this kind of joke, lame-o character, and then other people just fell in love with him and made him cool, made him awesome. uh, but otherwise, man, I love. I don't know. Bendis, I think gets a lot of flack for his deconstruction. I guess his like dragging stuff out. I don't know. I love that. I guess I guess I just love the written word, man. Whether it's Bendis or Stan Lee, just give me more words on a page. Give me more dialogue.
Yeah, you are a sucker for superfluous word balloons.
Yes, yes, I am. Yeah, I really enjoy Bendis, man. But nowadays, like I was real excited for him to take over Superman. But man, he did. I equated super. I thought Superman. A lot of people will think like Daredevil and Superman line up, or Daredevil and Batman line up, but I always thought Superman and Daredevil line up more. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I just think um they're alter egos and stuff. Like I feel like there's more of a similarity between them
Hmm.
than that. But his Superman run, I hated, and after that, like his other stuff, I don't know, man. He's just kind of like he's fallen off for me.
But still manages to get number 2 on the list.
Man, yeah, that there was a debate for me because there's so much I like so much of his stuff. Um, I should have looked up in my phone, but I'd be surprised if there was another writer that I have more material of than Bendis. Um, yeah, for a while, like it was, yeah, for a long time, it was buying everything. And you know what? Funny enough, I have read very little, if any, of his Spider-Man stuff.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, go
Wow.
figure. Yeah.
So, uh, going back to like my early days of reading comics as an adult. So, like, I graduated from high school in 2003, took a year off before going to college. So, worked full time, had a lot of disposable income because I moved in with my sister and her boyfriend, and I paid really cheap rent and like had very few bills and got a job at a grocery store. So, the food workers unions, those guaranteed raises and stuff. I kind of maxed out pretty quickly. So I had a lot of, I wouldn't like, it wasn't disposable income, like I wasn't lighting cigarettes with 20s and stuff, like I wasn't doing any of that stuff. But like for a young guy that's like, yeah, I could get like 10 things off the dollar menu and like be good food wise for the day. So I had a lot of money to spend on comics. And Bendis was like at the top of my list for a long time of like absolute best writers of all time. Like I read anything I can get my hands on that he wrote. And I I didn't like write a screenplay, but I outlined a movie and started to write a screenplay for a movie where my character was an up and coming wannabe comic book writer, and there was a wizard world in New York City, and the grand prize that you can enter in this thing, and the grand prize would be like if you submit a manuscript, then Brian Bendis would like publish the comic. Like that was the whole thing that was going on in the movie. So like my character, I wanted to win this contest so that I could work with Brian Michael Bendis. Like that was the premise of the movie. But you find out that it's all a sham, and that Brian Michael Bendis is actually an alien who is trying to take over Earth through pop culture. And so what he's doing is he's having people submit all these really great comic book ideas, and then he's stealing those ideas and doing them himself. And so like I get to New York and I find out like, oh no, all the other contestants have been replaced because Brian Bendis stole their ideas. And like then ended up you have to like the villain of the movie was Brian Bendis, and I had to kill
Nice.
him in order to win the actual contest. So that was the movie that I outlined. I never actually wrote it or anything, but yeah, that was like at the height of my Brian Bendis fanboyism.
That's awesome. I love it. And Bendis is good. He or maybe not is was good. Yeah, there's worse writers out there.
He's best as an on like give him an ongoing and he's gonna write just like every issue is gonna be amazing. But like if you give him a mini series, especially like 6 or 7 issues, he's not gonna stick the landing. He cannot finish a story to save his life, which is why you have to like give him 100 issues to tell 20 issues worth of story, and he'll make you fall in love with the characters, and you won't
Yeah,
care that it's 100 issues long. You'll love it. Give him a 6 issue mini series and be like, all right, tell the story. He's gonna drop the ball.
man, he's got some of the best. Secret Invasion could be the best biggest moment in comics like history. I feel like it's a people talk about Crisis forever, or I guess like maybe Secret Wars forever. I feel like that's what Secret Invasion could have been if
Mhm.
he didn't just have Thor come and beat all the all the Skrulls. That was Thor, right? Like, didn't he come? It was, am I remembering the right series?
Yeah, I thought
Um,
because it was like right after Siege happened, I think,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
where Thor moved Asgard to like Oklahoma or whatever it
yeah,
was. Yeah.
yeah, and he comes back and like just like I don't even think it made sense what he did. I think he just like lightning came from his hammer and that was it. No more Skrulls. But like whether it was him or editorial, that was a horrible ending. Um, yeah, it's all right. I was supposed to be talking him up, man.
I'm just making the case for why you should take him off your top five.
Get out! Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't, man. I can't. He's got to be up there. Maybe he's a little high, but yeah, he's man, he's one of my loves, man. I love Bendis.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing with his like early 2000s stuff too is like the rereadability is there, like because the it's everything that he was so good at was character driven
Mm,
characterization, and so rereading these stories, yeah, you're going to lose some of the plot twists and all that, but like the reason why you fell in love with his stories in the first place is because he made you care about every single character that appeared in those issues. And yeah, he's got a lot of rereadability. Like the first 50 Ultimate Spider-Mans are still some of the best comics you can find, and
yeah,
it's because he just did such a great job with those characters and just making them so relatable and so fun to watch. So yeah, like I'm not the biggest Bendis fan, but like I still have a soft spot for a lot of Bendis stuff, especially from like 2000, 2007, like those 7 years. Peak Bendis. Everything that he
yeah.
wrote in that era was phenomenal.
There we go. At least we could agree on that. All right. What do you got? What do you have for number two?
My number two, this one is kind of obvious, right? Like I'm an X-Men guy. The undisputable, hands down best X-Men writer of all time is Chris Claremont. I had to put him up there somewhere. As a fanboy, it's weird to say Chris Claremont number two. But the reason why my number one is where he is because like as a wannabe writer myself, that's the writer I would aspire to be, not Chris Claremont. And that's the only reason why Claremont falls to my number 2 spot. But I
Well,
mean, he wrote the best comic of all time, right? X-Men for 16 years, was the driving force behind every story decision, wrote almost all of the spin-offs, like just his body of work. It's ineffable, right? Like you can't really explain how important it was. But to an X-Men fan, like when it comes to comics, I'm X-Men first and foremost. So I have to have Chris Claremont on my list at as high as I can get him.
yeah, I was surprised. I guess not surprised. I figured we'd get to Claremont. Yeah. Knowing you, Claremont's tough to read, man. I think Claremont's tougher to read than Stan.
Oh no.
I
Oh
don't
no,
know.
no, no, not even.
I'd
No,
have to read.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'd have to. There is Stan X-Men and Claremont X-Men, so I could do a direct comparison.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, yeah. I maybe. Well, I'll have to try that.
my my older son, the one that actually like reads comics and he's getting into knowing the writers and artists and stuff now, he hates Chris Claremont. I'm like, here, read this. And he's like, is it Claremont? I'm like, yeah, read
It's a
it. And he's like,
Claremont.
no, I'm not going to read that. It's going to take me like 4 years to read this one issue. There's way too many words. Not going to happen.
That's awesome.
So he won't read anything from Claire. I'm like, dude, you're gonna miss out on 16 years of the best comics of all time. Like, don't do yourself a disservice and skip Claremont. He's like, not gonna read it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't blame him, man. You crack those books open, and they're daunting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Like I binge read the Claremont run on Marvel Unlimited. It took like 2 years.
Yeah. My middle daughter, she flew through the first X-Men omnibus, and then the second one, she got halfway, and then just like was done. She lost interest.
Oh
Um,
dang.
yeah, I think like right before all the good stuff too. Uh, but to bring it back, she did read. She flew through all of Peter David's Supergirl.
Oh nice.
Yeah. um, and my son has read some. I got him to read the first Sin City. He's 10. He read the first Sin City. Um, he enjoyed that. He's expressed interest in reading another one, but we'll see. We'll see how he gets how he likes that. He also read whatever. That's way too far off. All right, my number one. I'm gonna bring it back. My number one, Ed Brubaker. Um,
Wow.
another Daredevil writer, but not for Daredevil. I love his. Maybe the thing I like most from him might be Kill or Be Killed. I really love that series. The Fade Out, Sleeper, Batman, all of his now original graphic novels he's been putting out for, I don't know, years now, 3 or 4 years. I think they've been doing that. I think it's a couple a year. Um, and that's what he was the one that inspired this, because I just got his newest one and I was putting it on the shelf, and I just now with this newest one, I'm like, I should just put all of these together because I can't keep track of the names, and I'm not gonna look back and try to either reread it or suggest it on like the title name. It's gonna be like, here, you gotta read this because this is good. Um, and there's only it's so as far as I can remember, as far as I know, there's two artists, two creators that I have that have their own, I guess, sections in my on my shelves, and that is Brubaker and Will Eisner.
Mm.
Um, but Will Eisner's more creator than writer. So, but yeah, Brubaker, man, his stuff is good. I never, it kind of like threw me through a loop a little bit. But I'm like, man, if there's something new coming out with Brubaker, it's just like it's an instant buy for me, like without no question.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Brubaker. Yeah, I like it. His X-Men stuff is underrated, and his Captain America
Oh,
stuff is also among the best Captain
yeah.
America stuff that I've ever read. Like all the stuff with after Captain America's death and everything. That was all really, really good stuff. And like, I'm not usually an Avengers. I don't usually read Iron Man or Cap or Hulk or anything like that. But the Brubaker Cap stuff, like I'd throw
Yeah.
that up there as like some of the best Marvel um, of the last, I guess, decade. When was that? Like 2008 or nine? So I guess the last 15 years maybe.
Yeah.
The Brubaker Cap run, like super underrated stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, underrated, but like some of the best stuff, right? I don't know if I'd say it was underrated. I think everybody loves that stuff, right?
Well, I think his Cap stuff is really high. I feel like his X-Men stuff is like hit or miss with the fandom, so I would say
Yeah.
it's underrated because it's like people
Oh,
don't give it enough credit. Like it's actually really good. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know.
I don't think I cared for his X-Men stuff much.
Fair enough.
Yeah. There's somebody that's like on my runner-up list or whatever that I really like, and he was tied for probably my number five. But I hate his X-Men stuff. We'll get into that. I don't want to
Hmm.
encroach on your number
I,
one.
I have a theory then because I would probably like my number six, but I hated his X-Men stuff.
All right.
All right, but yeah, my number one, uh, Jeff Loeb.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
I haven't loved everything he's written, like especially as a Wolverine guy. I thought his Wolverine stuff was like middling, and his Incredible Hulk stuff not the best. But just as a writer, I like Jeff Loeb. I like the way he writes. I like his approach to storytelling. I like his approach to how he paces his stories. I like his just everything that he does. All of the technical skills that he brings as a writer. That's what I, as a wannabe writer, try to emulate. Like I try to imitate Jeff Loeb, the way he scripts his stories, the way he does his like panel he doesn't it's not decompress it's very decompressed. He does like four or five maybe six panels in a page. It's very action oriented, it's very fast paced, but he doesn't scrimp on character. He uses contrapuntal narration to really bring home the characterization. I just everything that he writes, whether I like the story that he's telling or not, I enjoy looking at it from a technical point of view. But when he tells a story that I enjoy, it's among my favorite stuff. Like
Hmm.
Batman, the Long Halloween, and Dark Victory, and Hush, and Haunted Night. Like those are probably my favorite Batman stories of all time, written by Jeff Loeb. My favorite Batman and Superman stories where they're working together from Batman Superman. He wrote the first 20 issues, 25 issues or so of that series when it first came out in the early 2000s. And like that was why I became a Superman fan. Like I liked Batman before that, but that made me a Superman fan. And in those stories, I usually actually preferred Superman to Batman when he was writing them both together. And the way that he writes Marvel characters, like I said, like wasn't really a big fan of his Wolverine or his Hulk stuff, but Spider-Man Blue is probably my favorite Spider-Man story ever. I loved Daredevil Yellow. That was probably the Daredevil story that got me into Daredevil.
Hmm.
I think like I barely even touched upon that in the first episode because I was mostly focused on like Guardian Devil, and like that's how that was like the first thing I read and got into it. But Daredevil Yellow is when I started buying Daredevil because it was Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. I'm like, I have to buy this. I have to read this. And I was like, you know what? I like this character. I'm gonna buy more Daredevil. Like Jeff Loeb is my number one comics writer.
Nice. That's yeah, a solid pick there, man. I loved the Long Halloween. I think that is that's a phenomenal story there. That's a mutual friend of ours, Brett Scott. He recently been reading, got back in the comics and been reading more. He was reading more Batman, and that was the number one thing I told him to pick up was the Long Halloween.
Yeah, same here. I was like, all right, you're reading Batman. Okay, Long Halloween, Dark
Yeah,
Victory. You're gonna want to read Hush. Like you're gonna want to read Year One and Dark Knight Returns because those are like it's required
yeah,
reading. But if you're looking for story, like go with Long Halloween and go with Hush. Um, yeah, Jeff Loeb, he just understands character and he understands storytelling and pacing. He understands like when to bring you in, when to push you away. I don't know. He's got such like a deep knowledge of like the Silver Age and before that he's able to pepper in like all these really great references and like Batman Hush is like if you're not going to read Long Halloween, you have to read Batman Hush, just because all the references that it makes to
yeah,
Batman's long history, you don't get that from many other writers. But like Jeff Loeb puts that stuff in. Same thing with his Superman stories. I don't know if you've ever read Superman for All Seasons. That was the
hmm
Superman one that he did with Tim Sale. Like
yeah,
that was excellent too because there's so much of the history there. Like he doesn't. It seems like he doesn't really tell new stories. He just kind of tells stories that like sum up decades
yeah,
of continuity, but he just does it in such a great, like meaningful way. He's just like, from my point of view, he's the
yeah,
perfect writer.
yeah. I like I a lot of his stuff is like nice full stories. There's no, you don't have like at least not that I'm aware of or can think of like big huge long runs. It's you can get just get a nice little collection and get a complete story out of him. And there was a time where it was him and Sale that just tackled all these characters like
Mhm.
one after another. They they hit the honey hole with those color books, right?
Oh yeah, they were excellent stuff. Even like Hulk Gray, like I'm not a Hulk
Yeah.
fan like at all, but Hulk Gray was great. I think the only one I haven't read, Captain America White, so
Okay.
I think that's on Unlimited. I should check it out, but yeah, I just haven't gotten around to that one yet. But yeah, he's
Yeah.
excellent.
So who would be your number six?
Grant Morrison.
Oh, Grant Morrison. No, I don't like him. No. If I no, I don't know. He's all right, I guess. I shouldn't say I don't like him. Um, no, Jeff Lemire.
Ah, oh yeah, all right, yeah. Extraordinary X-Men wasn't very good either.
Yeah. No, man, it was absolutely terrible. And I was excited to read him because before I had him as I had him scratched off as number four, then I had him at five, and then I guess he bumped him down to six. um, and that's probably because like the same thing with Bendis for me, where it's almost like he's like a cross between Brubaker and Bendis for me, where it's like Brubaker, I'll buy everything the guy writes. Like he puts his name on it and I'm buying it. I used to be that way with Bendis, but Bendis puts out stuff. He puts out stuff like at like Lemire's pace almost, because Lemire puts out like he could put out 3 books a month maybe, but like two of them are crap, or two of them are like a retelling of what he told last year or something, which isn't bad because they're usually always good, but it's like too much and it's overwhelming and like too much like not great stuff for me that's why he ended up lower. But I loved like his Essex County Descender and the sequel Ascender. I love Descender. That was a great story that I'd recommend to anybody. Same thing with well, Underwater Welder was amazing, but that's like a OGN. That's like, man, that's great. Sweet Tooth, I think that's a TV series, right?
Yeah, I think it was Netflix,
Netflix?
maybe
Yeah, I think
HBO
so.
Max. I think it was Netflix though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Netflix. I read that, never watched the show, but that was great. Yeah, Lemire's on there. Man, someone I really wanted to get on there, and I'm not gonna go that far down this list, but I got to say it because it was tough, man. John Allison. I I've only read he wrote Giant Days, which is by Boom. I think it might even be like the Boom. I don't know what they're whatever. It's by Boom. Boom Studios. It's like 10 trade paperbacks. I don't know how many issues. It went a long time, but it's girls in college in England. So it's not college either. It's called something else there.
University.
University. Thank you. Man, it is so well written. The art is amazing too. Um, but it is so well written, and it every time I read it, it's like I'm laughing at it and like laughing out loud. Um, it's amazing how well written it is, and he's doing something now. I think it's the British Bake Off. I don't know what it is. I picked it up the last time I was at the shop. I just haven't gotten a chance to read it yet. But I I'll buy anything with his name on it. Uh, yeah, he's really entertaining.
Yeah, I think the first time I came across Lemire was like his work with Valiant Comics. It was the first time I started seeing his name, and then I was like, "Oh, the Valiant Comics guy is doing X-Men." And then I read Extraordinary X-Men, and then that kind of soured me on Lemire, and I was like, this guy puts out a lot of like independent stuff, so maybe like there's a good chance that like at least half of it's good." Because his Valiant stuff was good, but his X-Men stuff not so much. So it kind of soured me, and I haven't really looked very far into his like
Yeah.
independent, creator owned kind of stuff. I think I would change my number 6 though from Grant Morrison to Jeff Johns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. As a DC fan in the mid aughts, everything that was good coming out of DC was Jeff Johns had his hand in it. So I'd
Yeah.
I'd probably actually put him up there. Like Morrison is like some of his stuff I really like it. Like I love it the most. And then other stuff that he does, I'm like, this is the worst thing that I've ever read. And like it's how I feel like All-Star Superman, the best
Yeah.
Superman story ever told. All New X-Men. I
Yeah.
wish I could erase that from continuity. Everything bad that's come in the last 20 years of X-Men stems from
Oh
his
my
all
God.
new
Yeah.
X-Men run.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. No argument here. No argument here. Um, the only man I can't. I've read the X-Men. Outside of that, I can't remember anything. Oh, I guess it's the All-Star Superman. I did read his book, God Gods and something superheroes, I think. I don't know. That was interesting. That was a interesting read. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I like, you know what, some of these people, um man, like Matt Fraction, I would have had him on my list because man, I some of his stuff, like I read that Hawkeye. I loved Hawkeye when it was out. And then when the TV show was announced, or before it was, or before it was about to come out, I reread that series. And as I'm rereading it, it's like, man, I feel like maybe it's just what I've heard of Fraction, like what I've heard him talk and stuff. Maybe it's having an influence on me, but it just feels like he's writing it from like this perch where he's like, I'm smarter than you are, like it had there's some rings of arrogance through there, and I don't know, man. I really liked. I read Sex Criminals November. I liked his X-Men stuff was good. Satellite Sam. I could go on. His stuff it's good, but man, I can't stand him. Like it's not. I don't even know. I'm saying Matt Fraction. That's not even his freaking name. He's goes. It's like an alias. He's like I don't know. He's a tool. I've heard him talk and stuff, and he's I Yeah, I have such a hard time with him and his wife too. She's a whatever.
Oh yeah, Kelly Sue, not a Kelly Sue.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's her. I don't think that's her name either. Like, who the hell are these people that just come up? They come up with like bullshit names. Like, I'm sure like I could just go on Google and figure out who Matt Fraction's real name, what his real name is. You know, what a prima donna.
I kind of get that from Hickman, although I haven't read too many
Yeah.
interviews with him. But like, maybe it's not Hickman himself, but like Hickman fans, they really place him on a pedestal as if
Mhm.
he's the best thing that's ever happened to comics. And everything I've read by Hickman has been, eh.
Yeah. Um, I kind of feel like he is like Bendis like that, where it's this grand idea and like so many words and so much. He's like a for me, he's like a cross between Bendis and my another runner up for me with Greg Rucka, where they
Mhm.
have this huge world. Like you'd have post-it notes and stuff, but then like nothing's realized or anything. And I've heard Hickman talk, and he's like, yeah, when like he's full of himself, and but I guess like rightfully so, like his stuff sells, so
Yeah,
it's maybe
yeah.
tough not to be full of yourself. But there's one thing that kind of pissed me off with the X-Men, where he early on, one of his early on interviews, he was talking about being on Krakoa, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna show them like doing stuff." Maybe he was referencing like the Dazzler concert or something, and uh, and somebody said maybe like a baseball game, and he's like, "Oh God, no, they're never gonna play baseball in my book." And I'm like, "You son of a bitch!"
How,
Like,
wow. How
what the
dare
hell?
he?
Yeah, like why can't they play what's wrong with baseball, man? Yeah, so he lost points with me there. But man, um I like I'll buy some of his stuff. I liked but then I get confused because I don't know what I like about it. Like I liked Black Monday Murders. I don't know. There was something back in 2020 or something which it was strange to read. The art was good. I was confused a lot, but I think I liked it. I don't know, man. I'm I need Stanley explaining everything to me.
Oh, Stan.
All right. I think we've milked this top five for all it's got. Unless you got anything else to say. You got anything else? Anybody else to bring up?
No, I mean, there's a lot of names that, like, obviously, so many names omitted, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of a top five, right? Is you're whittling it
Yeah.
down to five. It's not your top 89
Oh
comic
yeah.
writers. It's
I squeezed into like a top 10. um. Cool. All right. Well, we'll move on. We'll have more top fives where we'll be able to touch on some more writers and stuff. I'm sure. Uh, before we get to the comics, I did a little bit extra research from my Marvel Comics, The Untold Story by Sean Howe, and
Hmm.
yeah, I picked up. I went through and I highlighted a handful of passages I wanted to share with you and our viewers here. So near the end of oh no, I'm jumping ahead. Uh, the second issue of Daredevil was given to Joe Orlando. Uh, the problem, admitted Orlando, was that I wasn't Jack Kirby. Jack or Ditko or just a couple of others could take a couple of sentences of plot and bring in 20 pages that Stan could dialogue in an afternoon or two. When I drew out the story my way, Stan would go over it and say, this panel needs to be changed and this whole page needs to be changed, and on and on. I didn't plot it out the way he wanted the story told, so I wound up drawing at least half of every story twice. They weren't paying enough for that, so I quit.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was interesting, a little interesting insight there, right? Um,
Interesting. Yeah, for sure. Good for Joe,
yeah,
though.
yeah. So here's pertinent to something here in today's episode um, regarding Ramita. When Ramita turned in his pages, Lee told him his style still betrayed too much of his romance comics background. Lee told Ramita he'd get another artist to break down the story into rough layouts to show him how it was done. Then he called Jack Kirby. That's that explains that. I forget what issue it is, but we'll have it coming up, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's 13. I think it's the first one that I'm doing today.
yeah. Near the end of 65, Lee had asked Ramita to feature Spider-Man in a two-part Daredevil story. Ramita didn't realize it at the time, but it was an audition to replace Ditko on Amazing Spider-Man.
Hmm.
Um, Ramita had preferred working on Daredevil. Uh, but he was a team player, a consummate professional, happily wearing a crisp white shirt and a tie every time he stepped into the office, and figured his stint would be temporary. And it says I was sort of counting the days until I could get back on Daredevil.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Um, now, now we'll fast forward. Maybe I should save that. I probably won't remember, so I'll read it now. uh, Gene Colan's moody, I don't even know how to say that word. Chiruruscuro? I have no idea what that word is. Renderings gave the character a weight that hadn't existed with Wood or Ramita, and more important, finally differentiated himself from Spider-Man. Pacing wasn't Colin's strong suit. He had a dangerous habit of drawing breathtaking large panel scenes, only to realize that he needed to cram the second half of the story into the final few pages. Um, but for Lee, the gain in dramatic range outweighed the logistical headaches.
Wow.
So it looks like we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean,
But
Cullen comes on the book and stays for like 100 issues or 150 issues or something like that.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was a
So
long run.
yeah, right. Yeah, so it was a little interesting there. I thought at least I thought a couple interesting tidbits.
Yeah, it was especially for today's episode, like really prescient.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing that I'll start it off. Another little detour, I guess. I'm going to start it off with Fantastic Four 39 and 40, because
Whoa.
yeah, these, man, check out, dude. All right, I'm going to pull it out because this one's in like a crappy, like, like one of those like Ziploc type baggies. But man, look at this. Look at that cover. Can you see it? There you go.
Yeah,
Man,
that's cool.
it's tough. Like the detail, the arms, and the armor in Doom. Man, it looks awesome. It's cool. But so these, I think 39 came out between issues 7 and 8, and I think 40 came out between 8 and 9. So I'm off a little bit with this. But this Fantastic 439, June of 65. It's called A Blind Man Shall Lead Them. A story by Stan Lee, of course. Jack Kirby, Frank Ray, Delicious Delineation. I guess that's the anchor. Artie Semick is the um, letterer. So the Fantastic Four starts out continuation from the last issue where the Fantastic Four are pulled out of a lifeboat in the ocean. The Fantastic Four lost their powers. Reed makes up suits to mimic them so that their enemies can't catch on, because if their enemies did catch on, man, like, oh God, who knows what would happen. Uh, Reed is he's a total prick in this story. He is yelling and berating everyone in this team. And so now we flash. We go to Latveria, where Doom realizes that Reed hypnotized him at their last fight. So he runs off to New York City for payback. It just happened to be like crazy timing, right? Um, Now we're back in New York, and our favorite superhero, who we're here for, Matt Murdock, walks into the Baxter building because Reed wants to go over his will. I think he wants to go over his will because he expects them to die because they lost their powers.
Sure, yeah.
Um, so that happens when that just so happens to be when Doom attacks. So Daredevil, of course, saves the day, and the Fantastic Four get separated. Doom realizes that they lost their powers and were left to continue into the next issue. Um, I just kind of flew through that, right? Like we're just summarizing.
Yeah, that's
Dude,
what we got to do. Yeah.
yeah, the artwork here, this is far and away the best Daredevil artwork I think I've seen yet. Like that, look at that DD, man. That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
panel's that's great. Uh, um, I've never been. This episode is going to just be full of um, I don't know what, but controversial stuff. But I've never been a big fan of Jack Kirby.
Yeah, same.
I've always thought like his faces look similar, and I never saw anything too special with him. But maybe it's been like just maybe I've been reading all this old timey stuff so much lately that my head or my mind is in this space. Because now I look at it and it's like, holy crap, man, this is amazing. Like the artwork and the storytelling in this issue, there's like no flubs. Like there's these other Daredevil issues, it's like it's really good, but then there's a panel or two that's off. Man, there's nothing off in this. It's amazing. It's really good. Um, I just flipped over to that Daredevil panel again. It's really good stuff. Um, so yeah, that's 39. I thought I wanted the grade stuff, so I graded this an art A plus, story B. Um, yeah, I don't have much to say after that, but I guess I had a lot to say. Fantastic Four 40 now. We have the Battle of the Baxter Building. July of 65, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Vince Coletta, Artie Simic. We see right away Daredevil turn. There's these opening pages, like the credits page, man. They're cool, and it's like it's not story. It's not like directly. Like, it's not picking up where the story left off, but it's like a cool. It's like a cool. I don't know, summary or something. I don't know what you call it. Pin up. It's neat. Um, yeah, very cool. But we see right away. I don't know. Jack has no idea who Daredevil. I wish I could know how this story went, like whose idea this was. Oh, we also get if you're keeping track, for those keeping track, the Daredevil drinking game. Daredevil take a shot because Daredevil jumps off of he springs off of a flagpole there. Uh, Jack at least knows that much about this character. Um, that's about the extent to which he knows, because the next thing we have Daredevil doing is turning his billy club into a rifle. Man, I can't find that panel. He turns it into a rifle with a stock and everything, man. It's I Oh, there it is. It's like yeah, I don't know how he turns it into. He's got like 4 panels of it though, showing how he does it. It's the strangest thing. I spent a lot of time looking at that, like how the panel, man, the structure of this stuff looks great. So turns it into a rifle. He turns it into a rifle to shoot a TVI, also known as a drone, out of the sky. He was way out of way before his time. Daredevil fights DD fights DD. Daredevil fights Doctor Doom,
Nice.
similar to the Namor fight. Um, in which he's way over his head. The Billy Club also, I feel like we should be keeping count of everything that the Billy Club does, because now his Billy Club has a telescoping flexi shield.
Hmm.
Yeah, then the fight ends. The Daredevil Doctor Doom fight ends in a classic test of strength, like it was from the WWF, like Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior test of strength, and like to which Daredevil is like crying, like my hands are like broken. He's like, the numbness is passing, but I'll still be minutes before I could help them. Like, yeah, here here's the panel with Doom. I don't want to mess up my comic too much, but there's the panel with Doom like grabbing him, and yeah, it's awesome. Oh, and then here he is. There he is there. Like he's Doom's got him like down, like he's pushing him down to the ground, just like grabbing his hands. And then there's Daredevil like holding his wrist, like, my hands are broken. Whatever shall I do? My hands completely numb. Oh, yeah. Uh, so then that just gives Reed enough time to get his stimulator, which we find out was last used to help defeat the Skrulls in FF-37. He's gonna hit his teammates with the stimulator to get their powers back, and Ben asks, "Why didn't they just start with that?" Reed, it needed the recharge. That's why it
Okay.
needed the recharge. Yeah.
All right.
So, dude, this is probably the I'm glad Daredevil was in this issue so I could read it, because this is like the craziest. This is like the sick, like, man, it tore at my heartstrings right here, man. This is like the sickest thing I've ever read in comics. Like it's disgusting, dude. Reed is hitting everybody with the stimulator so that they can get their powers back, because they've all lost their powers. And Ben's last. Ben says, but maybe I don't want to become the Thing again. I'm finally normal, like everyone else, like anyone else. Reed, you've no choice, my friend. With Doom still at large, we need all our fighting strength. There's too much at stake. Poor Ben. It seems so cruel. I know, Sue, but it's the only way. He may hate me for this forever after, but the world needs his strength at this moment. The fate of mankind may hang in the balance. For better or worse, the Thing must live on. Look at how sad and depressed the Thing is when he comes back out of it. Man, he looks
Oh,
like he wishes
jeez.
he was dead.
Oh,
If the
man.
Thing could eat a bullet, he would in this moment. Like, man, I don't know why he doesn't kill Mr. Fantastic right here. Oh, what a disgusting pig, Reed. Who's Reed Richards? Like, who's the villain here? Why is the Thing going after Doctor Doom? What did Doom want to do? He just wanted to kill Richards. Why isn't he teaming up with Doctor Doom?
Yeah, really.
Oh man, it's I can't believe Reed. What a jag, man. Like, I think this goes back to our top five, right? Like who was it that did Planet Hulk, that had um the Illuminati? Was that
Yeah.
Bendis?
Yeah, it was Illuminati. Yeah.
Yeah, Bendis knows his shit, man. He probably read this issue and, like, yeah, he's a know-it-all prick that would send the Incredible Hulk off into space for no apparent reason, because he
Yeah.
knows better. Not because it will save humanity, because the fate of mankind may. He doesn't know, it may. Man,
They were like,
oh,
call the Hulk or something. You like bring in some
dude,
strength. There's other heroes out there that are super strong.
yeah, dude, Daredevil, like, is gonna get his hands broken, like he's gonna like get, and Reed's like, nope, here, save the day, stupid football player.
Bring
Whatever.
bring Spidey on the team. Like he wants to be part of the Fantastic Four. Let Ben
Yep.
be a normal guy and bring
Yeah.
freaking Pete on the team, man.
Oh my God, man. It's so sad. Yeah. So then we have 6 pages of a slugfest. The Thing wins. Doom whimpers off with his pride hurt. It's
Nice.
it Yeah, that's funny. And then somebody says like, "What happened to Daredevil?" And Sue's like, "Oh, we tended to his wounds and we saw him off." Like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, they just like totally forgot. Like I think Stan's writing the issue and he's like, "Hey, where'd DD go?" He's like, "Oh, I better put this in a balloon here." But then at the end, Thing quits. So I don't know who's in Fantastic Four number 41. I don't have that issue because Daredevil's not in it, so I give a shit. Um, but the thing comes back. I don't know. Reed probably hypnotizes him or does some shit. He probably teases
Hypnotize,
him and
yeah.
yeah, he probably tells him, "I'll turn you back in the Ben if you come back." And then like, oh my God, what
Yeah.
a jerk.
Come back or I'll send you off into space.
Yeah. Like, yeah, no, knowing the history of like, I don't know, the animosity between Stan and these artists and stuff, I kind of think like, man, what is Stan saying right here? Like, I feel like Stan's like Jack is the Thing and Stan's Reed, and he's like, "You're gonna sit at that table and draw till I tell you to stop." The fate of humanity, like, oh man, I don't know. I love Stan though.
Like the Monarch wasn't even that dramatic in Venture Bros, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they're good issues. It's good, entertaining issues, man. Um, yeah. So, all right, back to the main story, which I think we pick up on issue number 9 is where we left off last time, right?
I believe that is where we are. Yes.
My copy. Man, I love this what we're doing here because you're making me read all my single issues that I've been saving for years. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
let's get those down to fine instead of good, or is good worse than fine? I don't know. I'm trying to
yeah,
bring you down a grade.
yeah. Oh, there's not bringing like you're not bringing this one down much. This one's pretty ratty. Oh, and you should see my ox one, man. That one's. Oh, I got 2 of those though for some reason. And that one's like moldy. Uh, um. So this one, issue number 9, that he may see, by Stan Lee, uh, Wally Wood, and Bobby Powell, and Sam Rosen. So this is the one where I believe this is the one where Stan had to take over from Wally, right? So Daredevil stops some pirates. He gets shot in the arm. Next, he's walking up to the office. Karen talks about his vision surgery and that the top surgeon just moved to Lichtenberg. Matt and Foggy just so happen to have studied with this guy, the Duke, um, and he just so happens to be in New York visiting too. Matt goes back with him. Foggy says, uh, partners like Matt just don't grow on trees. What am I saying? Oh, where last issue ends with Foggy telling Matt to get his head out of his mat. So I thought that was kind of funny. He's talking him up. Uh, Duke says how Karen told him how Matt lost his vision. Um, but that happened before college. So it's strange that the guy didn't know, right? Because
Went to college with them.
he went to college with them, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so a guy tries to assassinate the Duke, but beats him with a karate blow, because we're back to the karate stuff. And Dee Dee senses that all of Lichtenberg hates the Duke. He does some reconnaissance and gets captured. The Duke confides that he is capturing the best people to use in order to take over the world with robots. So he's got the best eye surgeon and now a famous lawyer. So they fight. The Duke is beat. He's going to start. The Duke is beat, so he's going to start a nuclear holocaust.
Naturally, yes.
The eye doctor stops it, only to die just minutes after figuring out Daredevil's ID.
Well, that's lucky.
Well, lucky for DD. The Duke dies fighting Daredevil. Daredevil comes home. Foggy punches a mirror. I think, if I remember right, Foggy punches a mirror because out of frustration that maybe Daredevil came back, that Matt came back home. I can't remember. The nuclear holocaust thing, I think he just so happened to have something in his castle. It's been a while since I read this. I forgot what this is just nonsense, like filler. Like they just need to there's a reason why they put Daredevil in the Fantastic Four and in Spider-Man, and that's to get them to sell some books, because no one's buying this crap, I think.
Yeah.
Like this is issue 9. By the time I'm reading issue 15, 14, I'm like, man, wasn't he just in Europe in a castle? Like, what issue was that? Because it feels like it was just a handful ago. And yeah, here it was just earlier in this episode. But Jesus, man, it's a drag.
Yeah, this is a rough stretch. These
Yeah.
issues that we're covering today, these ones are rough.
Yes. All right, so I have issue number 10. Issue number 10. Here we go. We got Catman on the cover. We know it's going to be a good one. We start out with the organizer. Oh, this one's called While the City Sleeps. Stan Lee, Bob Powell laying out stunning script and art. Oh, Stan Lee was just doing editing. Stunning script and art by Wally Wood. Lots of lettering by Artie Simic. This one starts out with the organizer getting villains together. He's calling together like his ragtag team of like idiots. Catman, Ape Man, Birdman, Frogman. I think I made the joke last time about Mega Man's villains, and I guess that's Mega Man and Daredevil just share the same villains.
Yeah.
He's going to use these guys to institute a crime wave never before seen, thus undermining the government so that he can take control. Foggy gets a nomination from some third party to be the district attorney. There's a yacht. Is there a yacht party? Is that what this is? Yacht party. Frogman appears. Matt jumps in, swims down. He swims down a frog. This guy's a frog, and Matt swims him down. Like, I don't know. He's Michael Phelps or better. Remember, did you ever see where Michael Phelps tried to beat a shark? I don't think Michael Phelps could beat a shark. I don't think Daredevil's catching him to a frog. But then Daredevil's defeated by a grenade. Then we get a judo. I have judo chop. I mean, my notes are so. I thought I was gonna remember more, but I blocked all this crap out of my memory. We get a back and forth battle. Framing Daredevil for them gets Ape Man to lead them to their hideout. Foggy's new girl gets kidnapped, and we find out she's in on it. She's in on um, the scheme to get Foggy to be the DA. All right, that was a horrible summary.
I mean, you summed it up. So
Yeah, I guess there's only so much you could do with the story. Um, I guess it makes sense after reading all this stuff. It makes sense that Stan hated his profession because he was just like writing to kids. Um, because yeah, I don't know. I don't know how different kids might have been back then, but I can't imagine my kids being interested in this.
yeah, like political patsies and crime waves and anarchy and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's rough. The that cover art, man, that's a nice looking Daredevil though, right?
yeah, for sure.
It's I don't know who drew that, but to me it looks like stuff we'll see soon with Ramita. All right, we're on to number 11 here. Uh, time to time to unmask. They said it couldn't be done, and we almost didn't do it. I don't know. This is the controversial issue with Wally Wood, where Wally Wood wrote part one of this two-parter last issue just for a lark, but now it's up to sly old Stan to put the pieces together and make it come out okay in the end. Can he do it? See for yourself. Yeah, there's like a big to do with this issue because Stan and Wally got into a big pissing match and it didn't end up good. Um, But yeah, here we got Daredevil is spying on the organization when he realizes Debbie Harris, Foggy's girl, is playing him. He gets into a fight with Birdman, saves Debbie, follows Debbie, breaks the truth to Foggy. They go through the lineup of suspects for new readers. Like they that's how they sum it up for new readers, which I thought was kind of clever. And they set up the plan. Maybe it was for new readers. Now after reading that, I think maybe it was just for Stan Lee to kind of work everything out himself. Um, but then we just go like through this. It's 20 pages where it's like Daredevil figured it out. No, he didn't. He's got to do it again, and then he solves it. It's just like a crappy whodunit. In the vein of Daredevil from a couple issues ago, in the same vein. If you've seen Scooby Doo, you've read this book. Um, yeah,
I would have become governor if it weren't for you meddling idiot in a devil costume.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. They foil it. Foggy gets a little depressed that he was just being used, that he was a dumb patsy or whatever. Matt talks him up. We get like this little romance thing at the end. It's the same song and dance. If you read I think you read the first 2 or 3 issues, and then you could just probably skip to I don't even know where yet. Maybe issue 16 with Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you could definitely skip over these next
Mhm.
3. I'm gonna do issue 12, and then I'm passing it off, thankfully, because man, I can't believe this. I can't believe this one's a 3-parter,
Yeah. Hmm.
and I can't believe if anyone's sticking around for this stuff. I feel like I'm just talking to you here, bud. We got Daredevil number 12 here. How do you say his name? How do you say this guy's name?
I always said Kazar.
Kazar? I always said Kazar.
All right.
Kazar. I don't know. I'm gonna say Kazar, and then you could say it however you want for the next 2. Um, for this one, it's Daredevil number 12, January of '66. Stan Lee, and introducing the matchless artistic wizardry of Marvel's newest and most eagerly awaited illustrator, the inimitable Inimitable? John Romita.
Inimitable.
Inimitable? What?
Who cares?
In,
John
all right.
Romita, yay!
All right, John Romita. Layouts, Jack Kirby. So with my little bit of research at the beginning, we have a deeper understanding for that layouts part now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like we could. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not gonna go get it. It's been too long already. Ramita. Oh, there's the notes summarizing what I already read. In my notes I got JR. Ramita's son has some real good stories about Stan and his pops on Miller Time, to bring it
Oh,
back
really?
again to our top five. Yeah. Yeah, that Miller Time, man, on YouTube is awesome. I love it. I've listened to all of them, listened to all of them. It's good stuff. It's entertaining. All right, so back to the story. Matt is leaving town to clear his head. So he's going on a cruise ship. We got a nice action montage catching us up while Matt swings through the city in 5 minutes because I think he's got like ADD and he just like lost track of time and was like, I got to get across the city. How can I do it? I'll become Daredevil. But it's all he's got the flagpole swinging from again. But it's awesome. This is the great. I read something. Oh, that's what I read. I'm gonna bring it way back to the all the way to the very beginning. I read an issue of one of the most current issues of Savage Dragon this past week, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. And Eric Larson didn't do anything to help me with it. But if I was just picking up this Daredevil issue, these first 2 pages would get you as caught up as you need to be. Man, there's something to be said for that. So yeah, getting back to this, he swings through the city in 5 minutes. He gets to his cruise ship. He changes back into his suit and tie. Everyone's concerned about somebody named the Plunderer. I hope the Plunderer doesn't attack us. He's some kind of pirate. And sure enough, the Plunderer attacks. And this is why I love Stan, because we get words like schooner and windjammer. We never hear sailboat. He never once says sailboat. He says schooner, windjammer, and then there's another one here too. I had no idea what a schooner is or a windjammer. And when I was a kid, like if I was a kid reading this, especially in this age, there's no Google to look it up, man. So Stan is doing his part to educate our youth with these words. It's awesome, man. Schooner.
You didn't know what
It's
a
awesome.
schooner was? Have you not seen Mallrats?
I learned Mallrats. Well, I learned Mallrats. I learned schooner from Mallrats. Yes.
Okay, all right, okay.
But yeah, but no, this stuck out to me because I'm like, man, schooner. Like if not for Mallrats, I never would have heard schooner.
Yeah.
I bet you Kevin Smith put that in there because he didn't know what schooner was. I bet you Stan educated Kevin there. That's probably it. This issue here is full of references. Next one here, page 12 in the original. I don't know about what you're looking at, you the viewer. Page 12, my father before me. Do you know what that is?
Yeah,
My father
Return of the Jedi.
Yes. But he says that here. Our plunderer guy says that. Did you catch that?
No, I did not.
Oh my God!
I
What are you
probably
even?
I probably did, but I probably was like, oh yeah, the podcast, I love it.
No. Do you listen?
I do, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, me too. I love that. Um, but yeah, he says that. He says, "My father before me," and it's like, that seems. Do people say that? Is that a common thing? It seems kind of random. I wonder if what's his name is reading Daredevil at this time too. Not that he would have pulled out that one single line. Whatever. All
Right,
right.
yeah.
Just tell.
From a bad guy as awesome as Captain Plunder, the Plunderer.
All right. Just tell me, Kurt, shut up. Keep moving on. All right. So the plot. Oh man, this is. At least I got the good one of this trilogy, because now the
Mhm.
plunderer invites Matt into his room to explain his motives. Then they sit down to enjoy a meal and a smoke. Like they do. The plunderer takes off his coat and rolls up his sleeves. It's awesome. Look at how relaxed he is. Daredevil, he's still in costume. Throughout this whole story, he's in costume for I don't know how long, at least a week.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's got to be one stinky ass costume. But here, he is just sitting there, like having a drink, having a smoke and a scotch. I don't know what they just ate. They just had a meal. It's crazy. The guy's like relaxing. He looks an awful lot like Tom Selleck too. Now that I look at it, they got to get to Skull Island. That's where Kazar appears. Daredevil loses his powers. I forget how. Of course, he had to though. Kazar realizes that Daredevil must be friendly because he's costumed just like the X-Men were. Because Kazar was in an early X-Men issue, like number 12 or something, I think, right? Or we're looking at number 12 now. They can't be X-Men 12, is it? I'll look it up.
I think it's
Kazar
9.
goes 9. Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Talk over
Oh
you.
no. Oh no, for sure. Kazar goes out to find the magical healing juju beans, but then he becomes incapacitated as well. So that's the summary.
Excellent job.
Yeah.
And I'll swoop in to take over and cover these next these next 4 issues.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think I said enough about like this far and away the best Daredevil art. Nice.
yeah.
Far and away the best Daredevil. Put that back up there. Let me see that again.
Oh, it's on my iPad, so it's not like
Yeah. Oh
it's
man, the
not
color.
it's not rendering right.
Dude, the color is is that the is
It's
with the
yeah, it's just
color?
because it's digital. Yeah, on here it's the regular color, but for whatever reason, it's showing up as like
Oh,
blue
okay.
on the screen. Yeah,
All right. Okay.
yeah, it looks like
Okay.
yours when I'm looking at it with my
Yeah.
eyes, but showing it on the camera, it's like all weird.
Yeah. The art in here is a huge step up, man.
Yes, massive.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
Romita's always been my favorite, like Silver Age artist. Like it because his run on Spider-Man. It's not to knock Ditko or anything like that. Obviously, there was a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on behind the scenes with Stan and Steve too, because it seems to be the case with Stan.
Yeah.
And but not to knock Ditko or anything, but yeah, I've always thought that Romita was the best Marvel artist in the '60s.
Yeah. I would agree.
At least until Steranko comes on for the X-Men later on. And then I think maybe he's probably the best that they had in the decade of the 60s. But John Romita Sr. is like far and away my favorite Marvel artist from the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
But again, we get the one page kind of breakdown to bring us up to what's going on. We have Daredevil unconscious in a cave with like this big kind of caveman in the background, and it says dastardly story by Stan Lee, demoniac layouts by Jack Kirby, devastating artwork by John Romita, dilapidated lettering by Sam Rosen. Like, oh, poor
That's
Sam.
that's an interesting I don't think I noticed that the first time. He was on a cake with the D's, huh? Like maybe because it's Daredevil.
Yeah, could be. Could be.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was really hoping that you were going to have Stan in your top 5 so that I could say that I don't really like Stan as a writer. But I even wrote like an alliteration where it was like Stan as a writer, not so much, but Stan as the prolific progenitor of a plethora of pious protagonists, he is unparalleled.
Oh, I love that, man. That's good. That's good. I thought about putting Stan there, but I don't think I could. I don't. There, seeing something written by Stan Lee is I'm not gonna pick. I'm not going out of my way to pick that up.
Yeah, I mean, we already know
No.
we already know all
Yeah.
the characters that he created anyway, so
Yes. Yeah.
you don't actually need to read anything that he wrote.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get like 5 pages of this battle against this caveman guy who his name is Magor, and he is the last of the deadly ape man tribe, and that's all the characterization you're going to get out of it because he's just here as filler
Love.
pages, I guess, to like, because Jack is like, this is how you lay out action, John, and John's like, oh, I get it now. Um, and like that's really the only purpose. So Daredevil's fighting this ape man. Kazar's fighting the Bowser's piranha plant, and eventually they're kind of both had by Captain Plunderer and his thunder stick, aka his gun. Uh, they defeat Magor, and then they capture Zabu, and that's enough to get like Kazar arrives, and Captain Plunder's like, "Halt, caveman guy! Like this, we're not gonna hurt your kitty. I just wanted to show you this." And he like pulls out half of a medallion, and he's like, "This is half of my dad's medallion." Or I don't know if he says my dad's yet. Oh yeah, he does. And then Kazar's like, "Hmm, he have medallion too," and he like pulls it out of a pocket in his loincloth. And they're a perfect match. You know, it's like they're best friends forever medallion. And so you find out that Kazar and Captain Plunder, the Plunderer, are in fact brothers. So it's like, how did that happen? Because Kazar is like a caveman that lives in wherever he lives. I don't even like, do they even call it the Savage Land? They're just calling it Skull Island at this point.
Yeah, it's Skull Island.
Either way,
Oh,
the
they call
Captain Plunder. Oh yeah, I thought they just
last.
called it Captain Plunder or Skull Island.
Yeah, in the last issue they said sightless in a Savage Land. Is it known as the Savage Land yet?
I
Maybe
don't
not.
know. I can't remember if it was
Probably.
in the X-Men that it was in.
Hmm.
So yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I did skip over a page with Foggy and Karen. I gotta say, like knowing, I didn't actually know this until you read that excerpt, but if John Romita comes from romance comics, like you definitely see him shine. Because I was gonna say, like the
Yes.
artwork in the Foggy and Karen page, like this is the most interested I've ever been in Karen Page and Foggy Nelson up to this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, they're actually drawn like real people, and like Foggy is actually starting to take on more of his pudgy physique.
Uh-huh.
Karen is
Yeah.
starting to look as beautiful as ever, you know? And it's like it's exaggerated, like the one with her hand on her face is great.
Yeah, there's very good it's classic romance storytelling there if you've ever looked at a romance book.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. But the pirates, they're able to capture Kazar, and then they pretty much force Daredevil into accompanying them as well. They get on Captain Plunder's like rad submarine, which looks like Marvin the Martian's spaceship, and they go to another Scooby-Doo castle in Europe. And this is probably the most piratey that we've actually seen Captain Plunder's crazy. He says, "Drink hearty, you miserable scullions!" Like he's calling them spineless sea goats and saying grog and everything. Even though now he's got like his Count Nefaria suit on.
Yep.
And then he explains like the reason why he captured Kazar, even though he's his brother, is really he just wanted the other half of the medallion because when the two halves are connected, it's the key he needs to open some stone mausoleum thing where a secret element that his father discovered, which is going to be like the world's strongest weapon. He needed both halves of the coin in order to get it. It's like some sort of material that like dissolves metal. So there you go. And I think he even names it the Plunder Stone, although he doesn't reveal that, I think, until next issue. So I'm probably jumping the gun there. Either way, he tries to get Daredevil and Kazar to fight. They don't. One of the pirates is like a secret espionage spy guy. And so he warns literally every intelligence agency on the planet that Captain Plunder is now in possession of this weapon. And then at the very end, he, I forget what, like, I think it's Captain Plunder, like, kills one of his guys and then calls Scotland Yard and says that Kazar killed someone. And so the police are like, we better get going, boys. And at this point, Kazar and Daredevil have teamed up again, but then they're knocked out by an espionage agent, and then the issue ends. But then in the very next issue, you find out it actually wasn't an espionage agent. It was just some like double crosser working for uh, the turncoat Feepers, who is Captain Plunder's uh, like butler. Feepers.
Yeah, it's a hell of a name, right?
Feepers. Yep. So then that brings us to number 14, which is called If This Be Justice. And we get like this really great splash page from John Romita at the very beginning, but no superlatives, just story Stan Lee, penciling John Romita, inking Frankie Ray, lettering from Artie Simek. And it it almost seems like a step down from the two previous issues artwork wise, because like we don't have Kirby on layouts, and like this is making me rethink my stance on Kirby, because my stance on like 60s Marvel Kirby is mostly from his very lackluster X-Men work, but like seeing how good John Romita was when he was teamed up with Kirby and then how flat it falls in this issue, it's kind of having me rethink my stance on Kirby, but then that all goes out the window in the next issue, which is fantastic. But like I don't really even want to sum this one up. This was like the third part of a three-part story, and it really wasn't all that good. Um, the Plunderer gives himself a new costume because he's going to take over the world now. Because he takes the Plunder Stone and he turns it into like a firearm that can dissolve metal, and they go to like a military base, right? Am I getting that right?
I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
go
You
they
got
go
that right.
to a military base that's got like 100 soldiers, and he's got like 12 dudes. And because he could dissolve all the metal, he just completely takes over this military base, dissolves their guns, dissolves their tanks. It's not good stuff. Meanwhile, Kazar's been arrested by like Scotland Yard. So Daredevil calls Foggy and Karen in New York and is like, hey, I can't tell you where I'm at or what I'm doing or what's going on, but a friend of mine has been arrested in the UK, and I need you to get out there and defend them because you passed the American bar exam. So that means that your law skills are better than Europe's law skills. So please come out here and show these UK lawyers, excuse me, barristers, how we actually do law. What? All right, I guess they just needed Karen and Foggy to do something, so let's
Hmm.
bring them out to Europe to defend Kazar. Yeah, this issue is just really bad. Daredevil had infiltrated the group of people that were with the Plunderer, and so he's able to stop him from within. I mean, like, these really aren't, it's not a good story. The
No.
artwork's decent. Um, Eventually Kazar, I, I don't even think he goes to court before Foggy and Karen arrive anyway, and he like breaks his chains and they subdue him. And then Daredevil punches Plunder. He unmasks him Scooby Doo style, and like that's pretty much it. And then Kazar is in the hospital, so Daredevil goes to visit him. Oh, and Matt, yeah, Matt's like reunited with with Foggy and Karen. Of course, Karen loves Matt and Matt loves Karen, but they don't ever say it out loud. And meanwhile, Foggy's like, "Dag nabbit, like I'm really glad that Matt's back because he's my best friend and he's the best law partner a guy can get. But like, dang it, if he's not going to get in the way of like my plans on Karen." And that's pretty much it. And like the next issue, he promises that Dee Dee is going to fight his strongest foe. So I was super excited. And then we get to issue 15, and it's the Ox.
Yeah.
So Daredevil 15, it says, "And men shall call him Ox." And it's like we didn't already know of the Ox. Like he's already been in Daredevil comics and Spider-Man comics to this point, but I guess Stan just could not come up with anything good, so he puts Ox in here. And Unsurpassed story by Stan Lee, unexcelled penciling from John Romita, unparalleled inking from Frankie Ray, and unabashed lettering from Artie Simek. So I feel like they like Artie, but they don't like Sam. Dilapidated letters by Sam, and unabashed letters by Artie Simek. So
that's funny. Him. Yeah, right.
So, yeah, I don't know. This is like Stan's worst issue. There's so many unnecessary words in this one. So it starts off like, the trio's at the law office hanging out, of course. Well, Daredevil's there, and then the other two arrive and all that. Meanwhile, Matt realizes that like Foggy's still having like dizzy spells and stuff. And he's like, "What's the matter, Foggy?" And he's like, "Clearly, I'm still concussed from when the Ox punched me like 9 issues ago. But it's only coming up now because Matt's been in Europe and the Savage Land and wherever else, So now it's an issue, but really it's just because they need a reason to have Ox in a story again, I think. We check in with the Ox. He's in prison, and his cellmate is really smart and has convinced him to break out of prison under the promise that if Ox breaks them out, then he'll make Ox super smart. And Ox is like, "Well, I'm pretty dumb, so sounds like a good deal." So that's what happens. Like he breaks them out. He takes them to what is his name, Mr. Fear? What was the guy? Yeah, it was Mr. Fear, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Mr. Anyway, he brings them to like one of his laboratories, and Dr. Scragg, that's the evil villain that he was in jail with. He is like, "Yeah, I'm gonna hook you up to this machine, and it's gonna make you strong. What I'm gonna do is give you some of my intelligence." And Alex is like, "Sounds good." And what it actually does is it puts the bad guy's mind into Ox's body. So then he goes on a rampage now that he's smart and strong, and Daredevil fights him. And then eventually he kidnaps Karen, and then takes him back to the evil lair. And the Ox in the man's body like outsmarts the Ox, and then eventually the police are able to arrest him. And that's pretty much it. There's like this one weird scene where the Ox beats Daredevil and then puts Daredevil in a second set of Ox's clothes. And so the police arrest Daredevil because they're like, "Oh, it turns out it wasn't the Ox. It was Daredevil wearing Ox's clothes that was on this crime spree that he was wearing over his Daredevil costume." Just real fun logic there. Yeah. And I mean, that's like I just kind of want to stop talking about the issue now. Eventually they arrest the bad guy in Ox's body, and then the Ox in the other bad guy's body like escapes, and like the issue just kind of ends. So yeah. It started off, I'm like, I like this issue, this is interesting, and then I'm like, no, I don't really like this.
No, it's not that good.
But we get at this point issue 16. Here comes Daredevil, the man without fear. Enter Spider-Man. And this is what you were talking about when you said it was actually an audition to see if Romita can take over on Spider-Man. And he nails it. Like obviously he didn't know that that's what he was doing, but he really nails it in this issue. The artwork is phenomenal. The way he draws Spider-Man is excellent. The way he draws Peter and Aunt May, all of it is good. So you can
Yeah,
see why he earns the job of artist for Amazing Spider-Man, which he holds for like 100 issues. Like he takes over like in the 20s or 30s, I think, and draws all the way up to like 130, something like that. So
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
really long run, and it's like the best. I know that a lot of people say that like Stan and Jack on Fantastic Four is the title of the 60s, but like no, man, Stan and John Romita on Spider-Man, like that's my jam. I love that. That's probably my favorite thing that Stan's ever written was
Huh.
when he was on Spider-Man with John Romita.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see.
That's good stuff.
We'll see how I feel when it's Stan and Gene when I finally get there, because I've not read any of the Gene Colan run of Daredevil, so I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
We'll be there
So
soon.
yeah, not too far away, not too far away. So we have Enter Spider-Man, also introducing the mystery of the masked marauder, who sucks, but whatever. The book's all about Daredevil and Spider-Man, you know. So sagacious script from Stan Lee, phantasmagoric penciling from Johnny Romita, iconographic inking from Frankie Ray, and lachrymose lettering by Artie Simek. So again, it just every time I see these ones with Artie, it just makes me feel bad for Sam.
Yeah.
So it starts off there. The trio is watching the news, and I like the very first thing here. What do lawyers do when there's a pause in the day's activities? The same as you or I, pussycat. If there are no comic mags around, you're apt to find them watching color TV.
Yeah. Hey, that's funny. I knew I saw Pussycat earlier in one of the other issues,
hmm
and yeah, here it is again. Hmm.
Yep. Yeah, so it's they're watching a news recap of Spider-Man's fight with the Masked Marauder from Spidey 16, and they're just kind of like I don't know, they're talking or no, it's excuse me, it's his fight with the Ringmaster maybe I don't know, or maybe that was the issue that you covered when Daredevil was in a Spidey issue and they took down Ringmaster.
Yeah.
So we get, some fighting, and we get that Foggy Nelson kind of doesn't really like Daredevil anymore. He's kind of referring to him as a glamour boy and kind of saying like Spider-Man's my guy. And I think it's just because Karen kind of has the hots for DD, and so Foggy's like big deal. He's kind of a, whatever. He's a putz, whatever, and all that.
Yeah.
And then we see the masked marauder. He's just got a terrible costume, and he's got an army of goons clad in daredevil suits. And he sends them off into New York, and they start attacking Spider-Man. One of them throws his billy club and runs away, and he misses. And so Spider-Man chases him, but he escapes and like hides in a van. And so then Spider-Man swinging across town, and another, guy in a Daredevil costume attacks him and all that. And Spider-Man's like, "What the heck is going on? Like, I don't like this one bit." Meanwhile, Matt has heard on the radio that there are daredevils fighting against Spider-Man, and so DD's like, "Oh hell no! Like I'm gonna go out there and like clear this up real fast." So he's swinging around trying to find these daredevil imposters, and he comes face to face with Spidey, and they duke it out for a few pages. It's really good stuff. Like Romita is awesome. I'm pleased with this artwork. Like I like the sequence. It's a fun fight. It's quick. Like it's 2 pages long, 3 pages long, but I really dig it. And in the meantime, we go and we check in with the masked marauder, and he's got like this truck that has like a pneumatic tube that is able to get them up to like the eighth level of this random building, and they steal the blueprints, or they steal the actual, yeah, it's like they steal the blueprints for the XB390, some experimental jet engine thing. And he fights the police, and then he escapes in a sports car. We check back in with Spider-Man and Daredevil for their rooftop fight, and we get more, like we actually get to see some acrobatics here, both from Spidey and from DD. We get to see Daredevil like outsmart Spider-Man, where he like shoots his billy club at Spidey and he misses, or at least Spidey thinks he does, and he's able to then like wrap him around this pole thing using his billy club, and it's like, dude, this is really good art. I really like the action and the movement that Romita puts into this. Not bad for a dude who was drawing romance comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like a huge step up from the last issue, right? Like the first two issues he did, we had layouts from Kirby. Then last issue, and yeah, last issue, the two previous issues, it was like just Ramita, and it was like, it's fine. But this, it's like, boom, step up. Like he leveled up. Like here it is. Like this is where he cements himself as like an awesome artist. Just great stuff. And it looks like Daredevil. Unfortunately, it's not a flagpole. It's like a clothesline that he's swinging on. It's like, oh man, we were this close to another one. Uh, but we actually get to see him draw like Aunt May and Peter and JJJ. Excellent stuff. Like so good. Like really youthful. Like Peter looks very different from Matt, who looks different from Aunt May. Like they're all distinguishable. It's the way that we expect to see them in the
Mm-hmm.
60s. So a fun little interlude, and of course we get classic Aunt May, where Peter comes down and he's like, "Gosh, you're up early, Aunt May," and she's like, "I know, Peter dear. I didn't want you to rush off without breakfast again today. A frail boy like you needs his nourishment." Like just oh, shut up, Aunt May. I hate you so much. Shouldn't you wear your sweater, dear? It's a bit nippy outside. Like, yeah, that's the best old woman impression I can do.
Nice. It
So,
was pretty good. It's
I'm,
pretty
so,
good.
I'm sorry to all the elderly women out there who I've offended with my terrible impression, but I just hate Aunt May so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so bad. She's drawn very well though. Like,
Oh
so
yeah.
so good. Yeah, and then it turns out that the Masked Marauder is really happy because it's been a big success so far. Like some newspapers are blaming Daredevil, others are blaming Spider-Man. Some of them are saying that they're in league together and that they were fighting each other to like, I don't know, make people be like, there they are, and then they secretly stole the blueprints whilst they were fighting. I don't know. I don't understand the logic of these journalists here, but whatever. Either way, the Mass Marauder's happy because no one suspects him. And then the Foggy, Matt, and Karen are discussing as much while Spider-Man swings by, and he's like, "Oh, my spider sense is tingling, and it's the same tingle I get when I'm fighting Double D." And so he like crashes through the window, and he's like, "A woman, a blind man, and a pudgy guy. Clearly, that pudgy guy is tricking people, you know." So he picks up Foggy and he's about to clock him in the face, and Matt's thinking like, well, gee, should I stop him and reveal my secret, or should I let Spider-Man punch my best friend in the face? And that's how the issue ends.
Join us next time to find out what happens.
Yeah, so don't miss our sensational follow-up. None so blind. Love it.
Nice. Yes. Yeah, that was
So
a
yeah,
good issue.
yeah, we had like seven just seven of the worst Daredevil issues we've read so far, and then they're like, okay, here you go, here's something awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, those were rough. Um, I want to add, you don't have letters pages in yours, do you?
No, I don't. And the Marvel Unlimited just has
Yeah.
like the content page, but I don't have the ads or
Yeah.
anything either.
Yeah. The this one, so it's funny, like this one, two letters that I thought were that stood out to me. One, um, the boys here at Yale, needless to say, rate Marvel #1 and Stanley over any other writer. We consider Daredevil a sort of living model. I could barely study between issues 12 and 13. The suspense and tension were enough to threaten my midterm markings. Issue 13 was such a great follow-up that I stapled the two together, unable to bear the thought of ever losing either. 12 and
Those
for
were
reference,
those were
12
bad.
that was the Kazara issues 12 and 13. This guy goes to Yale. Kent Bicknell of 1135 Yale Station, Yale University, New Haven, Connecticut. I don't know where you are. I'm calling you out, Kent. I I don't know what kind of work you got as a lawyer thinking that those issues were good. They're horrible, man. You're yeah, you're not even a child. Oh God. Horrible. Um Now, I thought this one was interesting. Not so much for the maybe not so much for the letter, but for who it was. Bud Plant wrote a letter in. He talks a lot about Ramita and says that Ramita may again challenge King Kirby's throne. But Bud Plant, are you familiar with him? Do you recognize that name at all?
Doesn't ring a bell.
No, he did a lot of mail order stuff. Um, you'd see his stuff. I think he started like I forget what they call like the super fan. He was like one of the original um like probably like original big fandom people that pushed it over. Like he did a lot of stuff with mail order, maybe conventions. He probably had a store or two, publishing and stuff. I know the name Bud Plant. Yeah, yeah, he was a big deal in the history of comics and stuff. So that was kind of interesting to see.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, 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 and all the letters, man. Since Ramita has gotten on, a lot of comments about the artwork and like how nice it is.
Yeah, well deserved. Like it's a huge step up from, no
Yeah,
offense to those guys, but like a huge step up from Joe Orlando and Wally Wood.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I don't know, Bill Everett's his one issue is like better than anything, but whatever.
yeah. His one issue was really good. Um, yeah, we're getting long in the tooth. Is that a good saying for right now? Maybe.
Yeah,
It's long in the tooth for this episode, but I feel like we're about due to start putting together some lists of best artists, and maybe trying to keep a tally of best. I think we could keep a tally of best artists and worst villains.
we should do like an ongoing ranking, right? Where like every
Yeah,
time a new artist comes on,
yeah,
rank them.
yeah. I think so. Yeah, if I was so inclined, I could probably do some kind of spreadsheet where it would just bloop, 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 bloop. But I don't know if that's in the cards. Uh, but I got a pen and paper, so we could at least do that.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So after this, we'll be tackling, I don't know what, we'll have to look. 17, issue 17, which this one's, I don't know, this one must be in pretty good condition because I got a $75 price tag on this one. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be flipping this one through for the viewers. They might just get the cover. Um, these other ones were a lot less. Uh, yeah, that's it. Anything else?
No, I think I've said what I can.
Yeah, yeah. Um, cool. Yeah, I think we're moving in. Hopefully, we're moving into something better here, huh?
Yeah, looking at the next few issues, it looks like we got some good stuff coming up. We got Gladiators first couple of appearances.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the return of like Stiltman, and we're getting some Leapfrog. So I mean, we're getting into some good stuff here.
Nice. Very good. Cool. Got anything to plug? What do you have coming up? What's in the pipeline? Anything?
Yeah, I should be starting my recordings for. Oh, I should probably. So in addition to being the co-host or the special guest host or whatever for Cast Without Fear, I also have my own podcast that I do. It's just audio only that you find on all the podcast places called Talkin' Snicked, the Wolverine Show. It's all about Wolverine and the X-Men, and then I have a sister series I do on that same feed called Saturday Morning Snick Tunes, where I'm covering X-Men the animated series, one episode at a time, and well, sometimes two episodes at a time for multi-parters. But we are moving into season 5, so the final season of X-Men the animated series. So I should be getting to those recordings here real soon, and then start seeing those ones coming out. Hopefully, the delay isn't too bad. I was hoping to have it starting 1st of July, but I've had to move some things around. So hopefully it'll be coming soon. And either way, like we're not getting X-Men 97 until much later in the year. Like I'm hoping October, November timeframe. So at least I have some time to get those episodes out. But yeah, I'm working on scheduling those out so that I can start getting those ones recorded and put out.
Nice. I was thinking about it. The way Marvel keeps on pushing stuff back, we might actually catch up to uh, the Daredevil series, to the Frank Miller stuff by the time they release that, right?
Yeah, really.
Um, all right. Well, I have nothing. Um, I have this. That's it. So, with that, you could reach us. I don't think I've shared this yet. You could reach us at thecastwithoutfear@gmail.com, or leave a comment. We will respond instantaneously almost. Um, we will like your comments. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Share with your friends, and we need a catchphrase. Read more comics. I'm going to steal it from like 4 other podcasts. All right. Uh, that's all, man. Have a good night.
Say.